So here we are on this precious, precious day together. Welcome everybody. Lainie Sevante Wulkan here with this very special show. Of course, I say all the shows are special, but then there's the special. I feel like this is one of them because it's so unique in the story, and it gives us time to pause from our daily life, from our daily routine, from what we think is the norm, and come into this moment where we can think and feel and be outside of ourselves and experience a journey of someone else's, and also not only experience it from the conversation, but also see what parts apply to us, because everybody who comes on the show has something for one of us to listen to be part of the energy and to engage in. So if you have a cup of coffee or a chai or tea, this is the perfect time to just grab that and sit back and be part of the next hour as we all get to spend it with an amazing being I've come to know. She's not only an author, but she's just a divine way shower, I believe, of humanity and planet Earth and Gaia and nature and everything wrapped into one beautiful being. So, CHLOE Rachel Gallaway, here you are on Zeta Global Radio. Welcome to the show. So glad to have you here.
Thank you, Lainie. Thank you for having me, and thank you all for listening, whoever is out there listening today. That was a beautiful introduction. Thank you.
Oh, you're most welcome. So well deserved. So I've been showing people on the Facebook page and in the graphics, and of course it's getting a lot of shares and a lot of interest, that you were this young girl who had an experience very different from the rest of the people that are born in a hospital or born at their house with a family. So let's just talk about your life, and obviously in 1 hour won't cut it. I definitely feel this is going to be a part one of a few more. But I think that the gist of it is that we're going to start with, you wrote a book based on your own life, and I'm going to let you take it from there.
Yeah, so I wrote a book called The Soulful Child, and The Soulful Child really is in all of us, I believe, but for me in particular, being raised in a wilderness area in northern New Mexico, near the Hickory Apache Reservation, out where wild horses run, and with just my family. My father was a revolutionary figure. He was part of the counterculture movement, and was very much of the world, actually. Went to a private school, the same school that the Bush kids went to, and graduated with honors to go to Yale and Ivy League schools. And my mother was also very much of the world. She was born in Houston, Texas. She was the daughter of a self-made millionaire, actually, an immigrant that had come from Latvia. And so my childhood and her childhood could not have been more opposite. My mother was a ballet dancer and started in ballet when she was 5, and her father had patented an oil well product, and that's how he made a lot of money. And so the family was really living very well according to a lot of American standards. And my father was he came from not quite that wealthy of a family, but my grandfather had worked very, very hard to kind of make himself, pull himself up by his own bootstraps in the world, and was a judge and then ran for Congress. And so my parents collided and met in San Francisco in 1968, and my father was the lead singer of a band called The Human Factor. And he was a folk singer. He sang about humanity and issues going on of the soul and the heart, and what was going on in that time, was the Vietnam War and the hippie movement that was arising. And he was close friends with Janis Joplin. He lived down the street from her. He used to go across the street and jam in the circle with her and many other musicians that you guys have heard of probably. and he started getting some fame under his boots, and he was up and coming at that time. And I'm not going to give away really the rest of the story there, but they disappeared from society altogether.
Before you go on, first off, you already have. I'm in. It's already compelling, and I'm curious. Did you know your grandparents or your parents or any other relatives from what you just explained to me, or is this all been handed down from your parents?
Right. So as a child, mostly it's coming handed down to me from my parents. Now, of course, at this point, a lot as an adult, many things happen, and I have a relationship with all my extended family. So as a child, I was being raised in the woods, so I really knew nothing of my parents' other life. I knew that my father was a musician because living in the woods, we had no radio, no TV, no electricity, no running water. I mean, we really were living off the land. We were growing all of our own food. My father did mostly everything by barter and trade. For him, the whole hippie movement was about connection and community, and he really wanted to eliminate money as a resource because I'm not sure what his personal story exactly was with money, but money for him really was sort of the root of evil in society, the way that it was used in manipulation and in government and things like that.
Do you think it was religious-based at all?
I don't think initially that it was. When my mother met my father, she said that for 10 years he didn't speak about religion. So I know at some point there was a big shift where he grew up in a Christian family. So don't get me wrong, there were some religious ideas that were there, but he wasn't holding on to them fundamentally until we were moving into the woods. And they started in a commune, and then they kept moving further and further out into complete isolation. And so as he moved further into the woods, he did become very religious. And where that point was, where there was like that breaking point, I'm not completely sure. I did the best that I could to just tell the truth in my story, and through the stories that I got from my parents and through my own inner wisdom, I just followed intuitively the path and did the best I could to shed light on these kinds of answers. But people will have to read for themselves and see what kind of feeling and explanation they feel comes up. So, but the money issue, absolutely. I mean, I know that mostly he wanted things to be barter and trade, and that he felt that God and nature were the two elemental things that we needed to really grab onto, to really immerse ourselves in, to be healthy and to be connected and to live a good life.
Well, those are very two fundamental spiritual laws, or not laws, but dharmas that what everybody, I would say, are of vital importance is God and nature, particularly now where nature is being so abused and neglected and not loved up. And here you lived in complete pristine environment, but did it feel pristine to you? I mean, what did it feel like for you? Like, was it like awe-inspiring, or was it like that's just your norm?
Well, I would say real is the word that I would use most often. It was just real. And what that means is, I don't know that it was awe-inspiring for me at the time because I was born into it. I mean, all of us children were born with just my parents, and we were either born on a dirt floor. I was born inside the loft of a one-room stone house that was on top of this mountain range, and it's in the book. It's called Stone Mountain. And so being born into it, I mean, I felt like, looking back, I got to have reflection on it, of course, and really sense and feel and experience that the sunset became a part of my skin, literally. The tree branches, I talk about trees cradling me during times of loss, and literally walking through the forest in the middle of winter with the heavy snow falling and feeling like I'm being wrapped up and things like that. So nature was real in all of its sense. Sometimes you felt broken, it was harsh, it was rough, When you're getting up at 4 a.m., you have no heat. You have no idea or concept of heat coming through the walls, right? I mean, cold wind comes through walls, not heat.
Before you go on, two things. One is, how did you know it was 4 a.m.? Did you have clocks and watches or anything that actually...
My dad calls that whole system of clocks and calendars and things like that, he calls it the banker's world. So that was sort of the teaching I was getting, is that there's the banker's world, which is really man's world, and man's world is formed around the banker's world, which is this idea of how we operate with things because of money. And then that tied into a whole slew of things. And nature's world operated by functionality, really. So I don't know that I knew that it was 4 a.m. when I was little, although I had a very good sense of time. I knew when it was early. I knew exactly when the sun came up, and that's when I got up. I knew by the sun in the sky when it was 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So we did just tell time really by the sense of nature, and nature definitely requires that you understand time. Because if you're out, hiking somewhere and it's getting close to dark, you have to understand time, that you've only got this much time to get back or it's going to be cold. I mean, in northern New Mexico, anywhere, right, when you hear about these stories where people are out hiking and they think it's fine because it's warm enough during the day, but the temperatures drop drastically. And in northern New Mexico, they really drop. So stuff like that. You have to have an awareness all the time. Also at night, mountain lions, bobcats, animals that are predators come out. And, I was out as a child hiking with goats for hours over cliff sides and all along the side of a 1,000-foot drop cliff, just right beside me when I was like 6 years old.
Chloe, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, I want to know more about this, because being someone who's just lived for 15 years in New Mexico, I want to know everything about this faring the weather, and then just so much more about this. We're listening to Zeta Global Radio. We'll be back in a moment.
Live, breathe, relax. June is the perfect month to refresh and revitalize your skin at the Remedy Day Spa. Now, through the end of the month, enjoy any one of Remedy's custom sea salt or sugar scrubs, featuring one of their 3 aromatherapy blends: rosemary and grapefruit, bergamot and cedar, or lavender and chamomile. Best of yet, ZGR listeners get a choice of a free organic foot or hand enhancement by using code ZETA, Z-E-T-A. Book your treatment now at theremedydayspa.com or call 505-265-9219.
Welcome back to CGR Today. Does everybody wrap themselves in a warm blanket as we talk to Chloe here and learn about...
In the middle of summer, it's getting awfully cold, isn't it?
Well, I'm sitting here thinking about what you're sharing, and people love to go out camping. I mean, just really normal day, but this is the life that you lived. What did you do, especially as you got more isolated, as you were sharing earlier in the story, living out in the wilderness? And how many kids are there, by the way, living out in the wilderness with your family? How many are there of you?
6 kids. I had 3 older brothers. My oldest brother, John, and then Carrie, and then Nye, and then myself, Chloe, and then my sister, Abigail Rose, and then my youngest brother, Jason. I call us the pack.
Got it. And then how did the pack stay warm? Did you have clothes? Did you make clothes? Did you, did Mother Gaia weave you leaves? I mean, literally, I'm asking completely, how real was this? This is really for people to understand, going to Walmart or going to wherever you shop for your clothes.
Never heard of Walmart. That would be one of the stores that my dad would have just put into all intention and prayer that I never came in contact with, probably. My mother definitely knitted. She was an avid knitter, but we had hand-me-down clothes. So where we were living on top of this mountain range, if you went by vehicle 5 miles to the north or south or 10 miles, there were sporadic neighbors that lived in this sort of village where people, cowboys and people that worked in the oil industry, and mostly just very country cattle cowboy type folk, are very spread out in those areas. And most of those people had electricity, even though they were living very rural. They weren't living the way that we were living. And most of our neighbors were also very kind, generous people, and tried to respect my father for his values. And everybody just kind of toe the line with each other, like, I'm going to respect what you do and I'll respect what you do. And so we got hand-me-down clothes from some people. Often, I wore the same pair of jeans for an entire week, though, something I didn't want to admit when I came into the world, that I had worn jeans. And actually we slept in our clothes because the idea of pajamas was kind of unheard of to me. And you asked about extended family, and as I was growing, I did meet my grandmother. My mother's mother came to visit us on the mountain, and she probably came when I was about 5. She may have come when I was a baby too, and I don't remember that, of course. But when I was about 5, I started to get to know my grandmother, Ogrita. And she was a teacher, and she is what I call the book lady. And she bought with her books all the time and just would come and sit and read to us. And she was obviously very concerned as a teacher that we weren't in school. And so that was the other thing that my father, he wasn't against being educated, but he didn't want us to be educated in an indoctrinated system that was teaching in a very specific formalized way. And he was also very much against vaccines and any, manly sort of intrusion on the body he was against. And he was against medical intervention. He didn't want us to see a doctor.
For all of you out there, all the pack per se, was there ever sort of self-awareness, and this is just kind of plays into our conscious audience who are so tapped into, say, Mother Earth and nature spirits and, even the fairy realm and the plant kingdom. And, was that a part of yours that awoken in you, that you discovered that you had this connection? Or how did it feel in terms of, for me, like I'm hearing, like, was it an intimate experience with the planet, with the earth, with your feet on the ground, and were you able to feel those connections? Because I think that's a huge part that it feels like, and I can't wait to read the book, that is probably a part of the story.
Oh, well, absolutely, yeah. So, nature for me in many ways saved my life. And intimate absolutely is the right word, and there are many other words that you could put around that. But being that connected to the earth, being barefoot a lot in the dirt, on the ground, playing in the dirt, not having an excess amount of plastic sort of material and toys and things like that, and not having concrete, and being surrounded by trees and by birds. And I would say as a writer, I was living in an exceptional environment because I was living from a place of awareness. So I would walk, like I said, for hours with the herd of goats that we had, and we had these little Australian Shepherd dogs that we would nurse when they were puppies on the goat. So if you nurse the dog on the goat when they're just born, they'll naturally just start herding the goats and become protectors of the goats.
Wow.
So animals, the dogs, the goats, the goats were just, I love goats. Baby goats and the mama goats were just my really close-knit friends, honestly. And so between the animals and the nature, I just felt really enwrapped and cared for and loved. And I want to say that honestly, even though because my dad was reading the Bible and there was a lot of lesson around biblical stuff and the introduction of God and Jesus as this friend and compassionate being that walked the earth, those were all stories that were being told to me. But my understanding of God and Jesus really came through my connection to nature and animals. That's when I felt it and knew that it was real. Wow, when I was hearing something from the Bible, I was like, that's a story, and sometimes it didn't even make sense to me. And I mean, at 5, 6, 7 years old, I would question it. I would be like, that doesn't make any sense. I don't know what the Bible is saying here. But I would go out into the woods, and then particularly when things happened to me where I broke my right leg when I fell off a cliff at 10 years old. And had to decide on whether or not I was going to climb this 1,000-foot cliff, or I was going to walk, 5 miles to get to the closest neighbor, hop on one leg, because literally I couldn't. My right leg was broken.
Were you by yourself?
I was by myself because actually, in this part I will go ahead and talk about, but I was trying to run away. So as children, as we were growing, there was more questioning of my father's values and beliefs. And we obviously, through some of the neighbors and a few visits to my grandmother's, we were getting a pretty good understanding that we were not living like anyone else. And my brothers first started to question, why can't we go to school and why can't we read other books? My dad was letting us read and my mom was helping us learn to read, but we were reading like the McGuffey Reader books, books on birds and nature and animals and things like that. But my father was very much against science, Darwin's theories of evolution and any of that kind of stuff that was taught in the schools. So definitely there was a definite sort of rebellion that was going on between my father and all of the kids.
Well, it feels like, just from what you're sharing, and absolutely correct me, because this is your story and your experience, but it feels like a bit of irony that he was wanting to keep you away from society and their ways that they control, yet he was sort of modeling a little bit of behaviors of how things should be or will be. Am I hearing that correctly?
Yeah, that's definitely a thematic thing that's going on in the story. And I would say that my father had two sides, and one side he definitely lived by the spirit of nature and love, and on the other side, internally, he had a lot of fear. And so just like many of us, right? This is the big thing in our lives is, how do we show up authentically? And many of us show up with love, but then sometimes we might be angry, and fear is that underlying thing, I think, that brings a lot of different emotions when it's not handled. And so my father, for him, I think there was a lot of guilt and a lot of things going on, because remember, in order to leave the world, he had to take a stand against his father, who was, by a worldly standard, a very successful man. And he had to take a stand against a lot of what he was taught and all these things of a natural order in the world of what's successful, and redefine for himself what's successful. So he was in conflict a lot in trying to find his grounding place. There was some contradiction, and there was trauma. There was a lot of unraveling emotions, and I want to say that nature was the thing that was most consistent for me. Nature was consistent. When the sun came up, when the sun went down, when the moon came out, when I looked at stars every night, when spring came, when summer came, when fall came, I learned a consistency and a love through that no matter what chaos was going on around me, because our family unit was being broken apart at certain points.
Well, I think that is the perfect cliffhanger to take a break and to let everybody know the story is absolutely compelling, because you do go on to share what happened when when the calling came for you and your pact to make some decisions on that society or the life that you live. And you can learn all about that in The Soulful Child. When we come back, we're going to give you a little bit more insight on how you can get a copy of this book and kind of learn Chloe's timeline on that. And then we're going to switch gears a little bit and actually bring you up to date about what Chloe does now and how you can be involved with that. You're listening to Zeta Global Radio. We'll be back in a moment.
Join us on July 9th at Albuquerque's newest performance venue, the Remedy Day Spa. The Remedy is proud to kick off their Nob Hill Summer Night series with one of Albuquerque's best pop, folk, and contemporary artists, Wild Humans. Limited seats are available at theremedydayspa.com. Welcome to the Natural Awakenings June issue. This month, we look at natural ways to break free of pain. We explore lifestyle changes, diet, supplements, massage, craniosacral therapy, tapping, yoga, NAET, and medical support hypnotherapy. We also share healthy pizza recipes, tips on buying green cars, and a preview to the up-and-coming Wisdom, Healing, Qigong, and Conscious Aging Conference in August. Be sure to check out the community events in the news brief and calendar sections. We hope you enjoy picking up your free copy of Natural Awakenings Northern New Mexico, now in 25 Smiths and Albertsons locations in Albuquerque and Santa Fe. Do you need guidance on marketing your business? Looking for a cost-effective way to reach thousands of readers? Email publisher at naturalawakeningsnnm.com or call Andrea at 505-999-1319. Syndicone Media is your company's answer to getting noticed. We are branding media strategists that support you in bringing your message to the world. With a toolbox of media options to help you shine, call us for a complimentary consultation, and we'll tell you how we can take your product or service to the global stage through radio, TV, film, and web. Let us show you how to expand and grow your client base through our PR and marketing guidance and support. Call us now at 505-835-3717 or visit us online on Facebook and at our website at syndiconeworldwide.com. There's no limit to our imagination. Let us ignite yours as well.
Taking that in, welcome back. And we are here with CHLOE Rachel Gallaway. Hey, by the way, is Rachel or Chloe or any of your names named after anybody, or how did your parents come up with your names?
Yeah, so we actually all have sort of world names, if you will. Chloe was a name given to me by my mother because my mother performed in a ballet called Chloe and Daphnis that is choreographed by Maurice Ravel, the French composer, and she performed in that for many years. So when she had a daughter, she had 3 sons. I was the first daughter, and she named me Chloe. And Rachel means sheep, actually, and so my father named me that. I think it's like shy or. And then we all have earth names, and those are in the book too. So like my earth name is Flowing Springs River. And my brother Nye, he was born on March 11th, and I was born on March 12th. So we're actually 2 years, and 1 day apart. And wow. And his name is Many Waters. So anyway, the earth names really hold a lot of meaning for whatever was going on at the time of our birth, or visions, or things that my father had at that time.
Well, it's interesting because we were just talking off air, and I was sharing you why many people call me Sevante, and that all of us, many people I know have changed their names from their birth name to who they truly feel they are, and names have a lot of importance because they carry a vibration. So I just wanted to mention that. But coming back to the book and coming back to where they are, let's let our audience know where you're at with the book so they can hear the rest of the story, because it's such an amazing journey you are on. I mean, it's not just you wrote about it, you lived it. So I'm very excited to share with everybody what you can let us know about the Soulful Child.
Yeah, thank you. And I think the writing of the book is just so much deeper and richer than me talking about it, actually. And as a writer, of course, I'm going to feel that way, but I really truly believe in the power of words through the written format, and we reach a deeper level of consciousness. So I can't wait for people to read the book.
Me too.
I've been waiting for this for many years, actually. I wanted to write this story since I was 20 years old. I am now 40, and for 20 years, there was a lot of different things that went on to get me to this place to have a finished book. And I'm right now in the pre-book launch phase of it. I'm getting a lot of pre-readers on the book, which I'm very excited about connecting with. And there's an opportunity for people to become pre-readers and become a part of my launch. And with that comes many perks for my writing business that I have. And it's a connected community type of thing that we're building around this movement in this book. And I call the movement around the book launch Blazing a New Path in the World. The book will be released on September 9th. So 9/9/17 is my book release date.
Is there a significance to that date?
Well, it's my son's birthday, and my son is turning 5, and a lot of serendipitous things have happened to me with the number 9. So I met he's my ex-husband now, but he's a friend of mine, and we are pretty close friends in raising our children. And I met him on October 9th, and then our daughter was born 6 years exactly from the day we met on October 9th. And then my son was actually due on August 31st, and he was born on September 9th.
9 in numerology is completion, and me as a tarot reader always look at how things complete an energetic cycle. So for you, it's really completing this energy that's been held up inside of you your whole life, and now you're bringing it out to the world. So it's like it also marks the beginning of a whole new phase for you. And so it's very exciting. So for people who want to be pre-readers, that means to them that they can read it before it's published digitally, or just explain that a little bit more for them.
Yeah, so if they want to be a pre-reader, they would need to connect with me to do that and have a little bit of an interview. And then as a pre-reader, I teach writing. I'm an intuitive writing coach. And so if there's somebody that's interested in writing or learning to write a whole book, tell their story, any of those kinds of things, there are a lot of perks that I'm offering, discounts and things like that for services that I provide for the writing. Now, some people might just want to be a pre-reader and be a part of the launch, and that's okay as well, as long as there is alignment there between them and I in the platform that I'm building, which is around, nature and spirituality and connection. And this idea of blazing a new path in the world has to do with, I have made a choice to live in the world. So it's been very conflicting for me much of my life on, am I okay living in the world? Because I struggle quite a bit with it and miss nature all the time. And it's very different to go camping in nature and to live in nature.
Yeah,
so,
sure.
And all the stimulation and the things that are going on in the world and the way that we treat the earth and the way that we're like the ravishing of the earth instead of protecting the earth, and then seeing all the resources that earth has for us, and really having a nurturing reciprocal relationship with the earth is what I hope to do, and I hope to help other people do. But I really think that I can live in the world still and manage to do that.
Well, let's direct them to your website so they can stay in touch with you regardless, because you'll announce when the book is out and people can get a copy. And we're certainly going to have you back again, because we want to just kind of track this wonderful journey that you're on here in Zeta Global Radio. But yeah, let's just direct them to where you want them to go. Absolutely.
So if they would like to be a pre-reader, and they can just look for me on Facebook at CHLOE Rachel Gallaway, and they can send me a message on Messenger. That is a really quick, easy way to get in touch with me. And they can also visit thesoulfulchild.com. And if they go to thesoulfulchild.com, there's going to be a bit of information about me. There also will be a publishing link there. And where it says publisher, if they just click on that, they can sign up actually to get samples of writing, the release information about the book, and they can also sign up there to become a pre-reader.
I bet that's exciting for you to see people signing up from all different parts of the world, just to get a sense of how vast these days, of course now living in the world, technology is supporting this journey versus being antagonistic. It's a need.
It's a need, and there's destructive parts of social media and all the technology and all the resources that we have, and there are also very positive benefits. And as people, it is our responsibility to use those things with awareness and positively in our lives, right? So for me, this has been a very positive experience. And, when it comes to social media and things, I just don't get caught in all the negative stuff that is going to pull me down some vortex of where I don't want to go. Sure. But I am building and forming relationships as a writer and as the author of The Soulful Child with people all over the world, and that's pretty incredible. And at some point, I literally will be, meeting some of these people. I have some connections in Africa and some in Eastern Europe and Paraguay, South America, and I really hope to be meeting these people, on the ground, and making those deeper connections. So, well,
especially as you have a retreat coming up, so I want to talk all about that. And we have still actually a couple minutes left here. Why don't we just mention that, because you did touch on the fact that by profession now, you are an intuitive writer. And let's just explain that. That sounds obviously the natural fit for you. So let's just share a little bit about that and how that has led you to this wonderful retreat. And then we'll take a break and come back with a little bit more.
Yeah, so intuitive writing for me means the simplest way to explain it is just that you're writing from a place of feeling versus a place of thinking. When I started taking writing classes in college initially, and then after I had my first child, I really got focused on doing this book, and I started taking a lot of writing workshops and courses here in New Mexico and all over the country. And really there's a lot of writing you're coming from this literary-based process, and it's very left brain, and you're analyzing things and you're trying to problem solve the writing to create your masterpiece. And there are some really good things about the literacy process, and it's certainly very important in writing a good book. At the same time, I feel that it can block you a lot, and it's really missing some very key elements in creating a masterpiece of work that really can connect with people. And that is that it doesn't have the emotional understanding and components of what it requires to write and understand your emotions. When we're writing a scene, for example, that's difficult to write in our book, about loss, for example. I will say that my brother died when I was 8.5 years old. And so that was a big traumatic thing for my family and very pivotal in a lot of the things that took place in my life and following that event. And so writing those scenes, I really had to understand emotion of pain and grief and loss in a way that I could lead the reader literally through that experience without saying the words, "I was sad," for example.
Sure.
So the intuitive writing process really connects the writer emotionally. It emotionally evolves you, I want to say, and it connects you so much more to the idea of inspiration. So I believe in cultivating inspiration, not waiting around for inspiration to just come on me at random times, and then I will get something great out, which has certainly happened to me. But as writers, if we can come from this place of feeling, this intuitive place where we're trusting as well, right? When we talk about spirit and earth and Mother Earth, and you talk about all the spiritual aspects, Sevante, that is about feeling and connecting and trusting and being open to something, not trying to force something, not trying to problem solve something.
So true.
And that really is intuitive writing. It's all around, that whole process.
Well, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, for those who are feeling called to spend time with CHLOE, to bring forward that gift which is already inside of you, and to spend time in a retreat setting, we have got the absolute wonderful, wonderful experience for you coming up. So stick around. We'll be right back.
Rebecca Baines of Standing Bear Healing is a Native American healer, speaker, and channel. Trained in Theta healing, awakening dynamics, and landmark education, her deeply transformative work is done in a meditative state where she is able to shift subconscious beliefs and heal traumas. Sessions are done over the phone, so she's able to work with clients all around the world. Her work affects all levels of our being, mind, body, and spirit simultaneously. She has experienced dealing with depression, anxiety, poor relationship patterns, self-esteem issues, and sexual abuse, and much, much more. To schedule a consultation with Rebecca to transform your life, visit RebeccaBaines.net or call 505-710-7603 today for a healthier you tomorrow.
Spiritual Communities Network, where we honor the uniqueness in our oneness. Visit our website to meet our vast spiritual community of healers, therapists, conscious events, and activities. Visit and check out our directory, upcoming retreats, workshops, products, free videos, and much more. Many services are available globally by phone, Skype, and other sources of media. You'll also find more information on how you can be a member to promote the work you're doing in the world. Visit us now at spiritualcommunitiesnetwork.com.
Well, I knew when we started that this would be a part one, because there's so much more. There's so much more to the story that we're just barely touching the surface here. When you mentioned your brother, I just had so many other questions there, but I think that we're all going to sit with bated breath, wait for this book to come out. And also, if we want to spend a little bit more time with you, because we're also feeling called to be part of bringing forward our own stories in a very compassionate, compelling, intuitive way. You have a retreat coming up that I'm sure everyone would want to come to because there's time for it. It's next month, and I'm going to let you share all about it.
Sure, thank you. So, July 28th, 29th, and 30th, I'm hosting a full expression writing retreat, I call it. And so for writers, somebody that's thinking about writing their story, or if you're already writing a memoir or a nonfiction creative book, this is a great place for you to be. It's on an 800-acre ranch in northern New Mexico, and it's a very special setting because this setting actually is in my book. This is a place that I rode my horse to when I was a child. And so for me, I'm returning home in so many ways to the land that I grew up on, and it's right in the middle of my book launch, and most of the people that are attending are pre-readers, and if you want to be a pre-reader on the book, you get a $400 discount from the retreat. This is an all-inclusive retreat. We're going to have yoga, we're going to have guided nature hiking, we're going to have an all-organic chef preparing organic meals, because I believe that food as nourishment is part of our expression, right? The way that we talk with each other, the way that we walk in nature and feel the ground and feel the birds and feel the animals and feel the trees, all of this is part of our expression we learn. And so there will be very specific writing workshops in the morning and in the afternoon on both Saturday and Sunday, and then all the other pieces will kind of just bring this whole thing together so that people will understand what it feels like, not just theoretically the idea of what it means to express ourselves, but what it feels like to fully express yourself. And so we're going to be living that in the woods, and I invite people into this environment because it's just so changing when you get outside of the city, when you're in the woods in this way. And many people know that. But for me, this is just a huge blessing. Both of my brothers, two of my brothers are going to be there. One of my brothers is the chef. He is really renowned with food. He's an incredible food connoisseur. He will wrap your mind around things around food that you've never heard of. He takes plants from the ground and he's like, this is a natural painkiller. Let's whip this up, make this into this salad, da-da-da-da-da, and he makes all these things and you're just blown away, and they taste good too.
Oh, that's amazing.
And my brother, Kerry, he is just an astounding person with nature, and he'll be leading the nature hikes. And so for us, it's just a very grounded, connected, special time. And right now I have the people that are signed up for this, most all of them are pre-readers, and they will be receiving the book in early July. If they want to be pre-readers and get the discount from the normal price, which is $1,200 for the all-inclusive retreat, that includes the lodging and everything, they can get this retreat for $800 and be a pre-reader on the book and have an incredible experience.
Is it limited?
I don't like to take large numbers, so right now I only have space for 10 more people. Again, you can just connect with me, CHLOE Rachel Gallaway, on Facebook, send me a message on Messenger. They can go to thesoulfulchild.com and reach out to me. They can email me at write@thewingedriverwriter.com.
Yes, and we'll definitely post all that as well on the Zeta Global Radio Facebook. Yeah. Well, I really wanted to acknowledge what you've been saying, not only for this retreat, but just so many themes in the story today about being in touch with our multisensory self, that we're such a bigger vessel and container, not only our human self, our soul, but just the ability to feel and see and smell and hear are such not only incredible aspects to living, but really listening to what spirit, to what the wind's saying, to what nature's saying. So I just really want to acknowledge, because I heard that come up so often, and it sounds like in your writing, you've really keyed in on how important that is to really tell a story from all aspects.
Exactly. That's exactly right. We want to live from this place of awareness internally and externally. When you live from within, you have a completely different vision of the external world around you. And so we want to tap into that all the time, right? But as writers, we have an opportunity to tap into it in a magnified way, in a powerful way that can change people's lives when they read what you've written.
And it just begs sharing that a book like yours, and I shouldn't just say a book, a journey, an experience, an entire memoir, as you're sharing, has such capacity and potential to be on a movie screen that I'm very excited, because I just have all this imagery in my mind as you're talking, and I just can't wait to be a pre-reader myself to really see what you've gone through, and for people to also see incredible landscapes. New Mexico is absolutely stunning, besides everything else.
Leading them all the way up the mountain, I'll tell you, all the way through every tree branch and off of every dirt road. So get ready for that. But yeah, all of that, Lainie. So
how long is a retreat? Is it a week? I forgot how long you said it was.
No, it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. People will be carpooling from Albuquerque, so it's not too hard to get into Albuquerque, and there will be carpool, and it won't be too challenging to get to where we're going. And then when you get there, you really feel like you're removed from everything. So it's beautiful.
So lastly, you make your home here in New Mexico. Is that by choice? Like, it makes you feel close? Or have you traveled much in the world? Or what has it been like, just out of curiosity, speaking of New Mexico?
Well, New Mexico is the land of enchantment. I think there was an opportunity when I graduated high school, and I had been in school for only a couple of years, mind you, when I graduated high school. And I was actually living in foster care, so that's another piece that you guys will get in my story of my coming into the world. I did come into the world at a certain point, and I was in school, and I had an opportunity to leave New Mexico, and I really think that I wanted to be close to my parents. I was working really, really by spiritual faith and from the inside, knowing that to come to wholeness, I really needed to repair the relationship with my parents where things had been very broken. And so I stayed in New Mexico, and I think that was the core reason. Now, I have traveled. I've traveled to quite a few places in Europe. My sister lived in southern Spain for 2 years, and I went to stay with her several times. We traveled all over Spain and Portugal together. That was pretty magical for two little girls that were very isolated at one point.
Oh, I can imagine. Wow.
Yeah. My ex-husband is from Paraguay, South America, so I've traveled a lot in South America. I, spent some time in Mexico. My father lived in Mexico when he was young, actually, and spoke Spanish, and so there were a lot of places that he intended for me to go in Mexico, and I was able to do that when I was an adult. But I am residing in New Mexico. I actually love this place, and it's quite stunning and beautiful and has a lot to offer, I believe, and especially for creative, spiritual people. I really feel a groundedness here, despite maybe some of the things that people hear about New Mexico and some of the struggles that we do have, because there are many struggles here, right? But
there are, and of course, Breaking Bad, kind of put us on the center stage around the world. I remember when I was traveling India and people barely spoke English, but when I said Albuquerque, immediately they said, "Oh, Breaking Bad, Albuquerque." Suddenly they knew where I lived, and I was, because they didn't even know that New Mexico was in the U.S. So, yes, there's a whole lot more to this beautiful country, a beautiful state.
I have to just say that I didn't really watch the Breaking Bad show, but I have to say my ex-husband worked on that show for 5 years.
Oh, you're kidding.
In some ways, I have to love Breaking Bad because it gave him a really great job. And we actually went bowling with the cast of that show many times, and they are really lovely people. Bryan Cranston is a very nice guy. The show itself, I'm not sure what to say about the interesting plot and everything that was laid out there for all the drugs and all the crime and everything. But it's really good writing, and I met the writer, Vince Gilligan, and he's an incredible writer. So
there you go. Well, I fully encourage everyone who's listening, if you are feeling even the remote sense of yes inside and resonance to be part of this incredible experience happening in July that CHLOE is hosting, and to, of course, be a pre-reader, to be in line to get her book, all these things, please visit thesoulfulchild.com as well as the ZGR Facebook page, because we'll have all sorts of updates. And I hope that if you've missed any part of this, that you go back and replay it. It'll be on the Zeta Global Radio website and Facebook page and iTunes and Spiritual Communities Network. We're just everywhere these days and growing immensely. So you'll find this, and please share far and wide this incredible story. And again, we will have CHLOE back as we get closer to seeing her out in the world with her book. So CHLOE, thank you so much for the time today. It was just...
I can feel the energy behind all of this and my people that I am really excited to connect with. It really almost brings tears to my eyes, having been a child living in the woods that really desperately wanted to connect with people in the world, and this is happening to me now. So
everybody have a wonderful, blessed week. Thank you for spending your Saturday here with us, and I look forward to next week and every week after that, and of course seeing you at CHLOE Rachel Gallaway's retreat. Take care.